Welcome to Let's Talk Spokane, where host Ryan McNeese seeks out and discusses the latest on a variety of hot local topics. Now, here's your host, Ryan McNeese.
Welcome to Spokane Talks Live. Kent Adams sitting in for Ryan McNeese today because I have a special guest, a fellow actually that I worked for a few years back, Jon Rand. How are you, John?
I'm great. Thank
you. Good.
Great.
Yeah, you glad that's all in the past? That you don't have to put up with me on a daily basis?
You know,
you don't have to answer
I've
that.
stopped having nightmares. So.
Okay. Now, the company that was Northwest, remind me.
Northwest Broadcasting.
Northwest Broadcasting. Right. I should remember. It was on my paycheck, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you kind of took a little bit of a left or a right turn, or you hit the Y, if you will. You were the local manager up at Fox 28,
Right.
and then you kind of went up the corporate ladder and
Right.
started working for Brian Brady,
Yes.
who owns a bunch of stations around not only the Northwest, but in Texas and other places, right?
And New York, yes.
New York,
Mhm,
and yeah,
mhm.
oh boy. And you almost have to own several stations to make a go of it today, don't you, for some economies of scale?
Well, anymore, yeah. It's very seldom that an owner with a
standalone,
single couple
yeah.
of markets can have the leverage that you need in all kinds of ways.
Yes, to negotiate with syndicators and everything else that
Yes,
happens today.
right.
Well, last time I saw you, you were, I think, the station manager up there, and then you left and you went to Boise and started doing other things for the company. And then a couple of years ago, you made a turn on the fork of the road. What happened? What did you decide to do?
I did. Well, you know, I loved what I was doing as I was the COO of the corporation, and I had a lot of liberty and freedom to sort of run the company the way that I chose to, and I enjoyed that a lot. But a few years ago, I read and was very much impacted by a book called Halftime, From Success to Significance, and it was written by a guy by the name of Bob Buford. And it was really urging people that might have worked in the business world or other things that might get to a point where they think, was there a bigger or better purpose for me to be here than just to earn money, retire at 65, and go play golf one day and fish the next?
Right.
Yes. And that book had a great impact on me. It took a couple of years to sink in.
Okay.
And then at a point in time when I talked to the president of our company and said, I really kind of want to go away now, it took a couple more years for us to find a way for me to find the door.
Yeah, because he kept buying stations and finding other things for you to do, right?
He did. We were buying more stations, but I just finally said to him, I've got to go. I really have this driving need. And so at that point, we picked May of 2015 for me to retire. I called it retirement.
And what did Brian call it?
Well, he, in retrospect, now calls it sabbatical.
Okay.
But I can tell you that on the way out the door, he had a firm grip on my shirt tail.
Okay.
And he said, you know, there's so many things that you have done and that you kind of have in your brain that I need the help.
I don't want to lose all that.
I want to keep you on as a consultant. I
Right.
said, so, okay, I'll do that. And it was nice to have that additional income to be able to facilitate what I was going to be doing the next couple of years.
Yeah. And what is that?
Well, I, at the tender age of 62, decided
I don't remember being 62, John. Okay.
You were 62 when you worked for us, I think.
No, that was right.
Probably
I had
right.
just turned 60.
That's
yes.
right.
Wow.
I wanted to go to Bible college.
Okay.
I had no intention in going into Bible college.
Had this been a long time thing at all?
Well, no, it was really something that had it was kind of the next step in in my mind's progression about this, what I felt and came to learn from this book on Halftime.
Okay.
Actually became introduced to some teachings of actually one of the bigger televangelists in the country that runs Bible colleges, not only in the U.S. but around the world, who's headquartered near Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And my wife and I both had decided to attend Bible college and go back and expand our learning, our understanding of the Bible in just a very simple way. It's not it's a non-denominational course of study, and the only text is the Bible.
Wow.
And it's
And you came from a Christian background and all. I mean,
Well, I did come from a Christian background. I was raised in a children's home
Okay.
in Boise, Idaho.
were you really?
That was run by a very, for lack of a better term, legalistic, sort of narrow-minded.
Very
kind
strict.
Yeah. And so I became a Christian at a very young age, but when I got to a point where I was calling my own shots, I kind of went the other direction.
Oh, okay.
And in college and beyond. And
Right.
So,
As so many people do.
They do.
Right,
They do.
right.
I probably could be considered a classic example of the prodigal son, though, that finally at a point in life said, there's probably something better for me to do than this,
Right.
and started making my way back.
Wow.
So if you would have told me, though 5 years ago, that I was going to leave a job that I loved
Yes.
and a guy that I loved working for
Right.
and go to Bible college, I'd have said, that's not me.
Yeah, what are you smoking,
you got,
Ken?
you got,
Yeah.
you got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
And then even from there, some of the things that I learned and started to become engaged in were things that, again, I would have never thought that you would find John Rand doing.
Wow.
So-
Wow. So I got to ask this question before we go any further. Who got the better grades, you or your wife?
Actually, my wife got better grades.
okay.
But because I would take the tests were online.
Oh.
I would take the tests first and be the guinea pig, and then.
Okay.
I
The truth comes out, right?
To be honest with you, though, I was actually a much better student in Bible college than I ever was.
Oh, let's
when
not go there, okay? I've told I don't know how many people, and I did yesterday with somebody, that if I had been as interested in learning back in high school and college as I am now, and have been, especially about history,
Right.
I would have been an outstanding student. And but it's not too late to learn new things,
That's
to
true.
be engaged with new things. I mean, look at what I'm doing, and who would have thought, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And
That's
so
great.
we all learn, and I think, at least for me, the answer is, and I know it is for you, it's giving back.
Yeah.
And making a difference in other people's lives. Now,
Yeah.
you're doing it on a very personal level, and we're going to talk about that in a minute down in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
But in our case here, we're doing it because we think there's a place for good
You
conversations
bet.
to take place
Sure.
in Spokane.
Yep.
And so, you walk away from that going, okay, I'm going to make a difference, like I've never been able to before.
Right.
Because we're making a living and raising our kids and family and everything else, and going up the corporate ladder and so forth, that we all, or many of us, tend to do. So you're doing this, you're going to school, and you get to your last year in January of this year, right?
That's right, yes.
What happens?
Well, it's probably helpful to give a little bit of background that this college, the Colorado location of this college, has about 800 students at it.
Wow.
In it. And the average age of the students is 53.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit older than the average, but certainly there had to be a whole bunch of people older than me to have
Yeah.
it, because there were also kids there that came right out of college.
Right.
But so you have a lot of peers that are close to your age or whatever, and they one of the requirements of graduation is in your second year going on a foreign mission trip.
Okay.
And I truly, in the beginning, looked at this being a requirement. I say, okay, this is something
I'll
I've got to
do
do.
it.
If it was just me doing it on my own, I'm not sure I'd go on a mission trip. But
Right.
since that's part of the curriculum,
Right, right.
I'll play.
Yeah.
I'll play. So in January of this year, late January, I, with a group of 20 other people, went on a trip, about an 8-day trip to Costa Rica.
Wow.
And the main purpose of the trip was for us as college students to be down there, in some cases speaking in churches, but in a lot of cases being out on the streets of Costa Rica,
Okay.
holding up signs that said "Abrazos gratis," which is free hugs,
Okay.
and having people that are complete strangers that don't speak the language that we speak come over to have a hug and let us pray for them.
Wow.
And again, another thing that if you would have said to me a few years ago, you're going to be doing this one of these days? I said, you are nuts.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Right.
I'm a TV executive.
Yeah.
And,
I'm not a hugger.
and in fact, I kept a journal while I was down there, and a lot of people have laughed about this in reading the journal after in the aftermath, and that is I referred to them as sweaty hugs.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So it was a great experience, great learning experience, even a humbling experience. I was a little bit put off at the beginning of the trip. First of all, they had us take a red eye.
Okay.
Out of Denver International Airport.
Oh, Lord.
I hate red eyes. I just don't fly at night.
Yeah.
And then we got there, and I'm shoved into a room with 4 other guys in a hostel.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm used to having a nice hotel room that's, my privacy and so forth. But I'm shoved in a room with 5 other guys, and it was a race to see who was going to fall asleep first so we didn't have to listen to the other guys snore.
Okay. Well, thank goodness I wasn't there. Wow.
But the more I got into the trip, and I really am a purpose-driven guy and sort of wanted to know what was the reason that I was going to Costa Rica rather than
because you were going to fulfill out a requirement for college, right?
I mean, I could have been. Some of the trips went to Uganda or Sri Lanka or Colombia or London. I mean, there were a lot of places that people were sent, but the school, by choice, made Costa Rica the place that I was supposed to be going, and I wasn't sure why.
However, did you find out why?
I did find out.
Okay.
About 4 or 5 days into the trip.
After all the sweaty hugs.
More sweaty hugs that day too, but they took us on a bus into an indigenous tribal village in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And I always think of those kinds of places being in the Amazon or in Africa or someplace like that. I really didn't realize that they were in Central America as well. But this is an indigenous village tribe called the Bribri, B-R-I-B-R-I.
Okay.
They do speak Spanish, but that's their second language. They actually have their own language called Bribri.
And is Spanish a second or third language for you?
No.
Okay.
Anything.
So you're out of it.
Anything I had to do down there had to be done through an interpreter.
Okay.
So,
okay.
And on this particular afternoon, our group was split in 2 groups of about 10, as some of them stayed down by the river. And this is a place where a river kind of serves as the primary transportation hub for people coming and going there.
Right.
A lot of people.
No subways or trains.
No, there is a bus that makes its way between the villages, but the people that live there themselves typically don't have their own cars. Right. Some of them have motorcycles, but in every respect, the river becomes the primary form of transportation, bringing their crops across the river. I have pictures of these long boats that are full of bananas or plantains or whatever as they're harvesting them. And so I was actually, though, assigned to a group that went up to a home church service.
Okay.
And this church service was underneath a large black tarp drawn from the eaves of the family home. 3 or 4 generations live together.
Oh, wow.
Typically, these people are born, raised, and live their entire lives in the same place with their family. That's just the way it is in that area, in that country.
They don't really travel very far.
They don't travel. They are considered by Costa Rican standards to live in poverty.
Okay.
They're considered to be kind of lesser citizens because there's very little higher education amongst them. They do have K through 12, but there's a lot of them that just are very, very, very basic people and again, looked down on by their own people. It's probably somewhat misleading for the other people to look at them that way because they are all farmers and they own their land, and a lot of their commerce is really done by barter. And so sometimes that's probably a little bit deceiving because if you're trading your plantains for something else that somebody has, it doesn't show up as money in the economy.
Right.
So, anyway, we went to this service that lasted maybe an hour, and at the end of the service, the lady pastor of this church stood up and again through an interpreter said to us that they were believing that God was going to help them build a church by 2018. And that drew my attention. And
Yes.
I couldn't help. The rest of my team members were heading back to the bus, and I went over and again with an interpreter asked this pastora, well, how much do you figure that that's going to cost?
Yeah.
And she said, well, we need about 5 million or 2 million colones for the building and about 5 million, I'm sorry, the other way around, 2 million colones for the land and about 5 million colones for the building. And as I walked away, I started, being a little bit familiar with the currency, started thinking, that's not really a lot of money.
Yeah.
So 2 million colones equated to about $4,000 for the land, and 5 million was another roughly $10,000 to build a building.
Yeah.
Now,
Doable.
trust me, that isn't the Taj Mahal.
Right.
But it's a building that by their standards is equal to, the quality or the type of buildings that they live in and have a lot of things in. In what I learned in the process was that they had budgeted very, very minimally, and the plan was not to have, didn't have bathrooms in it, for example.
Okay.
And, they didn't have chairs in there, they didn't have ceiling fans, and again, it's a very humid and
Yes.
warm part of the country. But they just had a basic minimal building that had a roof over it that they
Wow.
could have
Right.
church services in.
And for them, it was glorious.
It was great,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow. So, did you make it happen?
Well, yeah, I actually, as I tell the story to some people, I kind of wrestled with God for a couple days because
okay.
my initial reaction when I heard this was, am I just supposed to write a check for this? I mean, I could
Yeah.
take money out of savings and
Yeah.
help them out.
Right.
But no, after a couple days, I figured out that I was supposed to understand that God was my resource, not me.
Yeah.
And when I came to that realization, I started working when I got back to the Bible College in Colorado on setting up means for money to be collected through a U.S.-based 501c3.
Right.
And formed a board of directors down there to oversee this. Put together, with help, a website called ChristForCostaRica.com.
Right.
And began raising money.
Gosh.
And not knowing whether in the end I would be spending months trying to have, get this
Yeah.
$10 or $20 at a time.
Yeah.
Or
'Cause sometimes
how
that's
quickly
how it
would
comes
happen.
in,
That's
isn't it?
true. Within 3 weeks, we had raised over $16,000 for this $14,000 project. And then I quit fundraising,
Right.
and by the time it was over with, we're over $17,000 in raising money.
So
for
my
this.
guess is you could buy a chair or two.
We bought the chairs. We put in not one bathroom but 2 bathrooms. They were able to kind of attach a little kitchen to the building. So
Wow.
because a building like that can serve not
As a
only
community
the church,
meeting place.
yes.
Yeah.
We bought some equipment to make some soccer goals so the kids could come play soccer after church, or kind of a. We bought a little sound system.
Yeah.
And it really just came together amazing and so quickly. It was
When you talked about, you could write the check by liquidating some things and so forth, I think sometimes we miss the point because we can all do that a bit with various projects. But to invite others to be a part of that, I think is part of our opportunity.
It is.
Not just to do it yourself. And,
It is.
And I think so. I'm glad that you went that route because now you've got other people who are thinking about those folks, who are praying for them, are taking care of them.
Yep.
And we need more of that.
We do, and I again, not knowing in the beginning how it was all going to come in,
Yeah.
I was just shocked at people's generosity. I guess now I wouldn't be shocked by
Right.
it because I saw what people did. Certainly, my wife and I contributed to it, but
Right.
we were by no means the largest contributors. And again, it wasn't. For me, it wasn't a matter of begging or pleading or really having to knock hard. It was a simple ask, and
Sometimes we want to be asked. I mean, I've fundraised since I was 18.
Sure.
And that was one of the first things I learned is you don't get anything if you don't ask.
That's true.
And people can say no because they have maybe other causes and so forth. but you want to invite them to be part of your vision and have it be their vision.
Yes.
Because from that, maybe other things will happen for this community down there too.
Well, and what was one of the things that was also gratifying to me, certainly a lot of the people some of the people that were with me in Costa Rica
Right.
participated. My churches that I have attended over the years,
Right.
I reached out to those pastors and got some generous
Nice.
contributions. But I also went to some of the people that I have worked with over the years in the television business.
Yes.
And a lot of people think of television as being the sin business or
Yeah.
whatever. But I would contact people that work for the big media companies, the big production companies
Yeah.
in California, CBS or NBC, 20th Century Fox, and all of those people responded in very, very graciously in giving money. And
Nice.
these people aren't necessarily Christian people, but they just felt an appeal for something like this
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
wanted to help with.
So, John, you've done this. You're back.
Mhm.
I assume it's built down there.
I
being
will
built?
I should have final pictures. Yeah, my
Okay.
wife and I, after I graduated from Bible college in May, my wife and I went back to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, and the building was in process at that
Okay.
point.
You weren't helping, were you? With
Well,
a
I was
hammer and
helping,
nails?
but I thought that they were going to hand me a hammer and nails. And what they handed me was a pick and a shovel, and they said we need somebody to help dig the septic system.
All right.
So here I am again, a big shot, thinking,
Yeah.
it's 90 degrees out here, 90% humidity, and I'm
Humbling,
looking with
though,
a pick
isn't
and
it?
shovel. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Sometimes,
And
sometimes we need to be humbled.
We do.
You know?
We do. So we participated in that. It wasn't finished. Down in there, you don't run to Home Depot to get your lumber. You have to go find a farmer and contract with them to cut the trees down.
Yeah.
You mill them with the chainsaw, and then you bring them over to your property and let them dry.
Yes.
So that's been something that stretches out the length of time that the project takes.
So when will it be done, do you think?
Well, I think it's probably done now, but
Okay.
but the person that I work with that goes down and gets the good pictures for me to get on the website and so
Right.
forth is probably going in this week to take those pictures, and I should have them in a few days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Before I forget, the website is,
ChristforCostaRica.com.
okay, that's pretty easy to remember.
Yeah, it usually won't come up on a search engine because it doesn't get that much traffic.
Yeah, well, we'll start to get it.
Right.
Okay, you've done this. It's being built, almost finished. You get to have pictures to prove that your contribution and those who stepped up. What's next for John Rand?
Well, shortly after I came back, I was trying to figure that out. The owner of the company was drawing me back in to take my old position back.
Yeah.
And I finally agreed to do that.
Okay.
And so I have gone back to that. But the last 3 or 4 months I was in Bible college, I also kind of decided what my other purpose really should be.
Okay.
And it revolves around somewhat the same theme as the book that I mentioned earlier, Halftime, which was about going and doing something else.
Right.
But I thought that there might need to be a book that addressed this kind of thing from a really just faith-based
Yes.
point of view. And so
You're going to be an author.
I wrote a book.
You did?
I wrote a book. I entitled it from the minute I started writing. I knew what the title was.
Wow.
It's called "Are You Done Yet?" And then the subtitle is "Pursuing Your Kingdom Purpose."
Yeah.
It came very easily to me, and I
Gosh.
told the story really from the beginning, from my childhood of, my brush with religion and my resistance to it, given its the way that it was positioned to be,
Right.
to
Kind of forced down your throat in some ways. Yeah.
coming back
Yeah.
and having really a more grace-focused look at my faith. And I told the story of Costa Rica. I included my journal, which I actually wrote as sort of a very personal thing when
Yes.
I was down there. But I thought, well, let's let her.
There are
buck.
lessons there, though,
Let her
aren't
buck.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people seem to have enjoyed seeing that in my
Gosh.
day-to-day reflections.
So when does this book come out?
Well, I have submitted it to a faith-based literary agent,
Okay.
and they're sort of looking if there's somebody who wants to publish it. If that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
Obviously self-publishing is a
Yeah.
big deal these
Yes.
days,
Yes.
and that's probably the direction that we'll go.
Right.
And somebody asked me the other day well, do you think you're going to make a lot of money selling this book?
That's
And
not the purpose, is it?
the purpose is not that. No, the purpose is really to set the stage for me being able to have a platform to go
Yeah.
talk to people
Right.
about exactly what I've done, and challenge people to think, are you done yet?
Yeah.
Was all you were
Right.
sent here to do was to make money and retire and then go play golf one day and go fishing the next?
Well, and you and I are almost pretty much the same generation. You're at the end of the baby boomers. I'm at the beginning. And what we've heard for the last 20 years or so, or 30 years, when you get to retirement age, think of all the things that you can do. And I remember being approached and saying you could make a lot of money in doing this and selling this and so forth, and you can retire early. And I'm going, why would I want to do that? Number one, my wife doesn't want me home 24/7, okay? But I mean, the fact is, we have more to give back.
We do.
And we can take some of that knowledge and so forth, and put it to maybe the wrong word, but better use.
Sure.
And a different use. And I'll have to say, having you on the live program and now, I've learned things about you that I had no idea. And I think that's part of what we try to do here, is to have the conversations, because one of the things I liked most selling, whether it was at Q6 or up at Fox 28, was the fact to sit down with folks and find out their story and live vicariously in helping them achieve the fact that more people would come through their door or whatever it is. And I don't think we do that enough these days, to sit down and say, oh my gosh. And when Ron said that you were doing this, did you know John? And I went, no, I had no idea. So number one, it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Number two, bless you for what you're doing, because there's a lesson for all of us, and I mean that. And I told Steve before we started recording this, I don't know how many listens or views this will get compared to some of our sexier things.
Sure.
But if it affects one person or two people out there that says, I could retire and maybe do something that's a little bit different, give back to my community or my church, those kinds of things. It's the best time in life.
Well, I really don't think any of us can go away and not have some feeling of guilt if they have a lifetime of experience.
Yes.
And money that they can probably share and make our world, whether it's again faith-based or even some civic sort of obligation, they can help make our place a better world.
Yeah, absolutely. John, thank you for what you're doing, and thanks for coming.
Thank
and
you.
once again, the website is?
ChristforCostaRica.com.
Now, will the book be up there too as well?
I probably would do the book in a different form, and
Okay. But maybe a link so people can
Yeah,
find it if
sure.
they know how to get to that
Yes,
site.
yes.
And you'll come back and talk about when you have the book, right?
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
great.
All
Thank
right,
you.
all right.
Thanks for watching Let's Talk Spokane. Have a great day.
Let's Talk Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask us a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Thanks for listening.